Okay, here we go. Well, good evening, everyone. Nicole Boone here with News 13. Joining me today is a 15th Circuit Solicitor, Jimmy Richardson, who serves the Horry and Georgetown counties. Good to see you, sir.
Oh, it's good to see you too. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a while. So, full disclosure, we should tell folks we're friends, and so
Yeah,
that makes it easier to talk like this. But it has been a while since we've seen each other in person, and I look forward to some of our group lunch dates soon that we have.
yes. Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll all get together and be just like old times.
Hopefully we won't have to social distance too much at that point. Whenever we do get to have lunch again with our fun group that we have.
Right.
So a lot has changed since COVID-19 came into effect, and talk about the changes that you immediately enacted at the solicitor's office and what the future looks like.
Well, Nicole, I tell people all the time, I've got a lot of problems. I do a lot of stuff wrong. But one thing that I don't have, and that's the easy one to point to, is I'm not a person that really does a lot of second guessing. And I understand that in a pandemic, people are going to make mistakes. You just expect that. This is the first time. And when we go back and look at it with hindsight 2020, we will be able to parse that apart and say, how bad everything was. But I got a little bit of taste of it because our staff is, I think we got 131 people. So it's quite a few to manage and a lot of different personalities. But one of the first things that I did is I said, look, the courthouse is as safe as your house, but I don't want to have 131 people between Horry and Georgetown. So one of the first things that we did is I said, look, you've got to come in to work or you've got to use your time. And the county gives you a lot of time. So I don't know. I've second guessed myself a bunch of times on that. But what I did tell them is you've got basically 160 some hours to make 40. So if you want to come in first shift, second shift, third shift, just make 40 hours.
Right.
So that's how we cap our numbers down from, all of those people coming in. And it's been sort of a skeleton staff since. The next thing is we sort of had to stop grand jury,
Right.
and we had to stop jury trials, and that came from Chief Justice Beatty. So we stopped all of that, and that limited the number of people that we could talk to. So we really shifted our focus to the only available thing at the time, and that was the jail.
Mm-hmm.
And when COVID-19 hit, we had been for about 4 or 5 months, maybe a little longer, but an average jail population of 750, give or take. We looked at those cases and we said, we need to move these in some way. Either they're going to prison or they're going to probation or they're going home. So we cut through a lot of those in the amounts of court that we've had. And we've done all of that by video conferencing, just like you and I are doing.
Right.
I would be in court. Judge John would be in court and a public defender. But the defendant in all of those cases would be out at the jail.
Right.
And we had closed circuit. So it wasn't quite like Zoom, but we had closed circuit that we've had for a while. And I look at that as an opportunity because Tom Fox and the sheriff they expand a lot of resources just getting people from the jail to the courthouse for
Sure.
3 days.
A lot
So,
of travel, a lot of time for your officers too. Yeah.
yeah, and you got to pull everybody out of the cells, and then instead of just taking them down to the courtroom, now you got to load them on a bus. You got to take them no more than 15 at the time. When that is over, you got to take those guys back and get the other one. You're dealing with food and whatever else that's going on.
The
So it's,
virtual court just nips that in the bud.
yeah, so virtual court has been great. We haven't had any grand jury since then. Some of the other solicitors have started looking into virtual court for um, grand jury.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm thinking, um, I'm thinking that we're going to be up and running at least to be able to do that in June. So I didn't want to recreate the wheel on that.
Mm-hmm.
But our grand jury is scheduled to come in June 17th, I believe, and that'll be our first grand jury since COVID-19. But we are trying to limit the amount of indictments they're going to have to look at, just choosing a lot more of the serious stuff because as a general practice, we were indicting all of the cases or sending them for indictment. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these, if it were going to be a plea, you could waive presentment to the grand jury as the defendant
Mm-hmm.
if they were wanting to plea. So we are cognizant of that, and we're going to try to make that first day back very easy for them. And we're going to have court again in May. Obviously, we had scheduled a trial in June, but I think we were probably a little bit too, I'll take the blame for that. I was probably a little too aggressive.
You could
Judge
say
John,
hopeful. You could use hopeful.
yeah, hopeful's better. John said, look, I don't feel comfortable with this. So we called off, he called off the June jury trial this morning, first thing this morning. So we have rescheduled all of it. We're doing it in July.
Right.
And we will we'll pick up again there with jury trials. So, but we've been there. I've been to work every day, and most of the staff has. We have been getting ready. I gave each attorney the assignment of being ready on 4 different cases, so that when we are up and running again, there wouldn't be any of this sad singing and slow
Right.
walking.
You'll be up to speed and ready to
Yeah.
go. Do you think when you get back to your trials, which you anticipate will now happen in July, what procedures will you may or may not put in place to just maybe still, you know, be a little bit safer or more cautious than you would be normally? Will we see some things that will be different?
Nicole, it is crazy that you asked that. I hadn't been asked that before, but we just wrote a grant to get mask and sanitizer and all of that, so that the courtrooms, it's a different world.
Yeah.
And for jurors coming in, that part will look a lot like Walmart and Walgreens and everywhere else we've been to, where you have the hand sanitizer everywhere, but we will give out masks to everybody. We actually wrote a grant to reopen court, and people a lot smarter than I am thought of all of the things that would be needed. So we shouldn't have any problem with any of those supplies. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be weird looking at a jury box full of face masks.
Oh.
And I don't know, I might have to wear one, but we'll adjust and we'll change, but we are doing things like that to try to make everybody safer, or as safe as they can be. And people have social distancing downstairs with smaller parts of the jury. We'll have to, what we do every time, and I'm thankful for it. It's a hassle when you're doing it, but anytime we try to do virtual court or something that we haven't done before, we walk through every bit of it. So we actually bring in a bunch of different people from the sheriff's office, from the detention center, from the clerk's office, the court, public defenders, and we want to see it because there's so many things that we take for granted.
Right.
Here you see it, you don't know. But
It's called training. It's no different than when you prepare for a hurricane and you reverse the lanes and prepare for evacuations. It's training. So you might see something that you go, oh, we didn't think of that.
yeah, and it always happens. You
Mhm.
can't be too smart to figure out all of the ripple effects of something like this. Um, but we want to do it safely, and we want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable. So I I cannot see it going off without a hitch. But if you prepare for it and you understand that everything is not going to be perfect, and just work together and see
Yeah.
each other um, as really in it for the same goal, it'll work out. I mean, there's not going to be anything mind bending. Nothing's going to scar you for life unless you get to COVID.
Which we don't
So
do that, but
we're
hey, you
going to
know what
try.
I was thinking as we're talking? So in the past, media comes to trials and we set up our cameras and we ask for a camera in the courtroom request. So here we are, we'll be coming into the factor too. And do you see that changing in any way as far as our accessibility, or we'll have to wear a mask or we'll have to do something different? I mean, there's so many things.
Oh, I know it, but we did actually think about that.
Good. I'm glad you thought about it.
Yeah,
Don't
we're
forget about us.
no, media will be allowed in. If anybody is allowed in, media will be allowed in. If we're doing something virtual, we got to make sure that there is a feed for the media, if at all possible.
Sure.
So, it's going to be rocky. It's going to be a little bit different, but we have thought about that part of it to make sure that we have at least enough wiggle room to adjust when all that comes up.
You know, who would have ever thought we'd be talking about these kinds of things that would change the way we live our lives, the way we work, and all of that? We have to hope that maybe we'll go back to the way it was before if the virus goes out. But then again, it's a possibility we could see a resurgence in November. It's possible all of these procedures and plans and protocols could be forever.
Yeah, and I hope not,
Me too.
because I think we have built a society around being able to at least, especially in Horry County and in the South. Um, I don't say we're touchier, but
Like to hug. My
yeah,
culture, I'm a hugger.
we like to see everybody, and
Handshake.
and I could see some of that changing. And the longer this goes on, I mean, right now we're not able to go to church. We're not able to go to movie theaters. There's so much that is different than it was in February.
Oh yes.
Um, you know, I think the main thing for all of us is to keep an open mind and to make sure that we're seeing the best in each other and understand that some people, what I've had to deal with a lot more is uh, angry. People will get angry for whatever reason, defendants and victims and everybody else. But the truth is, it's a lot of it's coming out as anger, but it's fear, it's
Fear,
the uncertainty,
concern, worry. Yes.
and you give each other a little bit wider berth, I think, during this time, and understand that this isn't an attack against you. It is just that somebody's upset, and they're upset for a lot of reasons. Shoot, I get upset.
So you got to show people grace, right? You have to show them
Yeah,
grace.
that's what we hope to do, and and when we talked about coming back with a jury trial in June, one of the things that you kind of think through is, doggone, these jurors, this will be, if it's over, that'll be their first time back to go to work.
Right.
And how would you like to be hit with a jury summons, be one of the unlucky 200 after
God,
my paycheck?
yeah, God bless them.
Yeah.
That's
So
tough.
we try to think through everything like that. And we are very fortunate in the fact that there haven't been nearly as many arrests. Now, I don't know that that
Right.
means that crime has gone way, way, way down. I do believe that it has, simply by the fact that if you're out on the roads now, you're probably a suspect, even if you're not doing anything, because while the stay-at-home order was.
Right.
But I think a lot of that, there hadn't been nearly as many arrests, so our numbers haven't skyrocketed. That part we will be able to go right back into with not nearly the uh, great numbers as we had last year and the year before. I mean,
Right.
we were doing 10,000 warrants a year.
I remember, yes.
So that will go down this year tremendously.
Well, interesting times, my friend. I think we'll wrap it up. We've talked a lot, and you've shared some great information. As we close, as you look to the future, your hope.
Well, just a return to normalcy and to be a little bit better at it than we were before. So hopefully these things that we've been forced into with technology, some of that good stuff will stay and the bad stuff will go the way of the dodo bird. So maybe we'll learn something from it and be a little bit better and be a little bit more efficient.
Yes.
But I really want it to be back to normal.
Gosh, I know. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with me. Like we said at the top of the recording, you and I are friends, and we have a friend group that goes to lunch periodically. We come from all walks of life, and like you, I look